You are in for a very special treat today. If you have ever wondered what it's like to work with me one on one, if you have ever been curious about like the human beings behind my brand, um, then I want you to buckle up, get something to write with because we're going to be taking notes. Um, I don't like to waste any time. So we jumping right in with one of my favorite people in the world, one of my Dream Leap Live VIPs, Miss Donnita Nicholas. I'm waiting for her to join in. I think I pressed click. I don't do technology, Lord, but that's fine. Hey, family, welcome, welcome. I'm going to send another request. Go live. Says it's waiting for her. She should be coming right on.
Okay, we on. Hey.
Hey,
Here
hey,
we
Miss
go.
Donnita.
How are you?
I am so excited. Not as good as you.
Oh, we'll see about that.
Mm.
We'll
I am
see.
very excited to be here with you and to get this chance to talk to you. And this is going to be fun because our conversations always are.
They are. They are. Looking forward.
So, I'm not here for the surface. We're going to jump right in, right?
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
So, I would love for you to start by telling us who is Donnita Nicholas and what is she really about? Like, let's just jump right in.
Okay, okay. I'm learning me, so I'm realizing that I'm powerful, that I'm also tender. Um, I'm a lot of things. I'm a lot of things, but determined, um, nervous, just, I don't know, a perfect mess,
Mm.
a perfect
Tell
mess.
us what that
I'm
even
made of
means.
many things. I'm sorry.
I was saying, tell us what that even means. I know that's your brand and that's who you're becoming, but tell us what that means and why it's so important to be the perfect mess.
Because I think that what I'm learning and accepting is that there's so many pieces of me. I think when we think we're supposed to be one way, we struggle with accepting that we're not really that way. And I think at almost 50 years old, that's what I'm realizing is that I am a perfect pod of a mess. And it's not such a bad thing. It's
Mm.
not such a bad thing. So I think that, this brand that I'm trying to birth is a perfect example of who I am.
The brand
You
that
know,
you are birthing. There is no
that I
try.
am,
This is the brand that you are
yes,
birthing.
that I am birthing. Yes.
So
Yes.
y'all will notice what I just did. Donita hates when I do this, but when I catch her saying something that downplays what she's created, I make sure that she corrects herself out loud. I want to practice like catching her in the shitty self-limiting beliefs and like replacing that with something better. So we're not downplaying nothing. Ain't no try. You are building a brand.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Rashida knows. She commented correct.
You are good at that. You catch me every time. When I don't even know it, that's the beauty of it. You catch me every time. So I
And that's the
appreciate it.
thing.
That's
We
important
say
in
so
holding
much.
ourselves. Hmm.
We
Go ahead.
say so much and accept it as truth. We never question it. We never challenge it. And so we don't know that we have other options. And part of my work is to remind you there's always a better feeling option. Always.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's a learned
So
process because I didn't realize that needed to be a thing. I did not realize that. So it's a learned process, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to see that.
yes. Yes, yes, yes. So speaking of processes, what was going on in your personal process or your personal experience to let you think, you know what, let me reach out to Adama? Like, how did that even come about?
Well, it's interesting because it wasn't something I went looking for. So I thought, I guess. I literally joined this group. Shout out to the Good Thick. It's a fitness program, but it's so much more than that. I joined it just to kind of, during this pandemic to kind of work out. We do Zoom calls every day from, for half an hour to kind of just do a quick workout. But it really offers much more than that. Once a month, you have powerful women like yourself come on, and we've done vision boarding. You come on and snatch edges, and I just happen to I'm always about a good conversation, right? And something that's going to kind of drop seeds, you know. So when she, you know, put that out there, I was like, of course I'm going to come to this. And then just hearing you and what you were saying clearly was what I needed, you know. So I didn't go looking, you know. I thought I was okay. I am okay, but what you were saying, I felt like I needed to enhance on that. I needed to talk to you a little bit more. So of course, through your process, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look out. You know, she got this little thing going on. Let me see what she about. You know, so we did the first session, and what I realized is that you left me with food for thought. You know, you put some things in my mind and some questions in myself that I felt like I needed to continue to process. But it just really happened that way. I did not, you know, I always tell you, I think I've told you before, I have a therapist. I have a
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend. Shout out to Jan Richardson, but Dr. Richardson. But you know, she's an actual therapist as well. So I have my girlfriends and my family that, you know, through conversations, you know, they become therapeutic. But you came to me, you know, sometimes you need the message different ways from
Mm.
different people. So you came to me just like that, you know. But God, I guess it.
Love that. And what was it that made you feel like this wasn't just a fun conversation, but something that you wanted to continue? What was that click that let you know what, this is not just a one-time thing. I want to work with Adama.
I think it was probably the first conversation
Mm.
because when we did the, what was it considered, the visioning session, because I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
were like, I want to know if, you know, I want to deal with you. You know, I want to know if you want to deal
The
with me
clarity
too.
call, exactly.
Right, exactly. So you started saying stuff and asking me questions that I had not asked of myself. And I thought, this is somewhere I need to go. Because anytime, so, you know, my girlfriends will tell you, I like to be challenged, you know, in a soft kind type of way. But I like to be challenged, and I like, you know, I'm okay with the criticism, the positive criticism, things like that. And a lot of times people don't offer you that aside
Mm.
to kind of look into yourself. So I think that's what you offered from the first conversation. You started asking me questions like, what are my dreams and what am I thinking? And if I had no challenges and obstacles, and what would I do? And I'm like, I have no idea. I've never thought about that. I've just kind of been moving and shaking just by going. I've been running fast and I never stopped to think about me in the
Mm.
process. So
Mm.
that's where it started. Do you
So
want to?
speaking of, you said what?
I'm just getting my tissue.
Yes.
I told you we ain't got time for this today. I got tissue and my wine right here.
Listen,
Let
drink
the
that wine
drip.
and get your life. The only reason I don't have a glass is because I don't have wine in the house right now, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. So you were talking about moving and shaking, how you're always going. I tend to only attract high octane women and women that are getting a lot done in the corporate world and at work. So can you give a little bit? I think people don't understand the variety of women that are attracted to coaching. Can you talk a little bit about what kinds of things you were creating and doing in the background of your life when you met me? Like what were you doing for work and what's been your background professionally?
Professionally, I've been hiding behind numbers for a long time. So I've been doing, you know, I've been doing accounting since I was in high school. So I've had the pleasure of building a career on that. So from a professional standpoint, I think I'm successful. I know I'm successful. That was the easy part, though. You know what I mean? It just kind of happened. It wasn't something that I dreamed of because it
Mm-hmm.
just, you know, my life didn't work out that way. But that's what I was fed, and I ate it. So I've been doing accounting and finance, and I've been moving up the ladder, you know, ever since. You know, I got my degree probably when I was 30. The first time and the only reason I got my degree, not because I felt like I needed it, but because the first person that when I became a manager, the first person I hired made more money than me because she came out of college. And I was like, hold up. I need to do something, you know what I mean? Because I thought I was a shit, you know what I mean? So anyway, from a professional standpoint, I think things are okay. I do feel like there's a part of me that could give more. You know what I mean? We get comfortable, you know. So honestly, when I talk, you know, your thing was about leadership and deciding to succeed, and you know, you were talking about that, and this, you know, that's kind of your brand. So I really expected more of a professional push You know what I mean? How do I get to that? You know, I'm already at executive level. How do I get to that next level? You know what I mean? What do I do? How do I get out my own way? And I
Mm-hmm.
thought it would be more from the professional side, but what I realized is that one of the things you always say is how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I realized that me getting myself in control over there I had to, you know, it's all one thing. I had to dig deep in myself and get to the roots of who I am so that I can progress in every area, whether it be in my personal or professional. So they
Yes.
connected, and I didn't realize that because I think I've always blended the two without even
Mm-hmm.
knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that's where I was, and happy. I mean, I'm not in a place where I feel like I need, you know, a therapist or, you know, a coach or whatever. It just happens, and you know, I feed off of people too. You know, I mean, we seem to have vibed, and I, like I said, I welcome, you didn't know me, you know what I mean? So I welcome your opinion of me. So I can, you know, sometimes we don't look inside ourselves. It takes somebody else to see us. So when I was talking to you and you were telling me things that weren't really, it wasn't really new information, but I think it's how you were telling it to me. I think it was you making me responsible. You give me homework every week where I had to write down some shit that I'm like, why is she asking me these questions? You know, I was blocking the questions like,
Yep.
what she mean? If I had the perfect guy, what would I require him to do? And I'm like, I don't know how to answer these questions because you know, in my head, I got to figure it out. But when you present these questions to me, you make me accountable for what I say and what I believe. You know what I'm saying? When you put it on paper, it becomes something different. So, you know, it just became, and then at first it was kind of uncomfortable. You know, it was uneasy, and it still is. It's hard to kind of take a look at yourself and
Mm.
see the mess in you.
Mm.
Um, but it's also refreshing. It's also freeing, you know? So I don't know. I guess you came at the right time because I didn't even know I needed it,
Mm.
you know?
It's
So,
interesting. You are one of the most self-aware people I have had the honor of working with. And it still interested me that like every week you would say, "Oh, I didn't I didn't think about it that way." And I know that you are a very deep thinker, but I feel like you have not allowed yourself for so long to really think about you. So, I would
oh
love
my
to hear
God.
a little bit about your experience of me forcing you to do what you thought, the work that you thought you had already done. What was your experience of that? Knowing that you had been in therapy, knowing that you are so deep in your thinking, what was that experience like to have me ask questions that you didn't even know to ask yourself?
Hmm. It was, it was challenging. It has been challenging. It was also refreshing. Um, I think I started off resisting, you know,
Absolutely. Go ahead, tell
a
on
lot of the
yourself.
com
Yep.
you said what?
I said, go ahead and tell on yourself because you did resist me at first. Yes.
A lot of the conversations, you know, I kind of kicked back because it was uncomfortable. Um, but I also know I needed that, you know. So I think at some point, I started to allow myself to open up and stop, you know, stop making it difficult, as you always say, because I do make things difficult. I think I hadn't realized that. You know, it's one thing when
Mm,
your girlfriends and your family tell you that, and your kids. It's another thing when a stranger tells you that. You're like, oh, maybe that is who I am.
mm,
So I guess I was in a place where I just needed that. You know, I needed to kind of, you know, so then I became, you know, I think we were 8 weeks, 9 weeks. In the beginning, I think I resisted things and the homework was like half-assed. And then I'm like, oh, I got to do this. But it really forced me to take a deep look at myself. And I don't think that I've ever been challenged with taking a deep look at myself. You know what I mean?
mm.
So um, it was freeing too. It's been freeing. You know, fast forward where I am now, it continues to be freeing. It's a process though. It's a daily process. But I don't know. You know, it takes a village. You know, I think that sometimes you get things at the right time, but also when you think it's the wrong time.
Mm.
You know, I didn't realize I doubted myself a lot as much as I did, you know. I didn't realize that I cannot give a F and it's okay, you know. I felt like I was in, I mean, I'm in a good place, you know, there's nothing really wrong, you know, I feel like everything's okay, but there's also been a part of me that feels like there's a hole to fill. There's
Mm.
something that I need to get out. I need to feel some kind of satisfaction in all my joy, and all my blessings. I still feel like there's more of this. There's more of me. And I think as I can connect with who I am, I'm hoping that will come out more and more.
Yes. I heard you use the word hope, and I'm going to go ahead and say hope is not a strategy.
Okay.
So, what
Okay.
is the
Definitely
decision that
will.
you are making for what you're creating with your life as Donnita 3.0? And if you want to, you can explain what that concept even means.
Well, we came up with Donnita 3.0 because that's just the next version of me. You know, that's the one who's not going to take no shit for real. It's the one that's going to be okay being okay, realizing that it doesn't have to be perfect. Everybody won't understand you. You know, everybody won't like your food. You know, it's the version of me that accepts my flaws, that, you know, doesn't have to, the version of me that's uncomplicating things, you know, the version of me that's dreaming,
Mm.
all those things that I didn't realize I didn't do. You know, that's what Donnita 3.0 is. Um, and I think on the surface, I probably look like I was already there. But that's the thing about the beautiful mess, because on the surface, I look like one thing, but on the inside, I'm a whole different story.
Mm. Mm.
You know, so whew.
Breathe.
I'm breathing.
Breathe. I know it's a lot, but it's so important that you even acknowledge you're giving yourself permission to dream finally. And
Mm-hmm.
knowing that you have this full permission and knowing that you've made the decision to show up as Donnita 3.0. Tell us a little bit about this new movement that you are moving into, the new chapter of your life called The Perfect Mess. Tell us a little bit about that, what that means, what that's about, how you came to that decision.
Well, it's really interesting because it's probably a week old. It was literally as we came to the end of our meetings and in our sessions, you put out a challenge. Like this here started as a challenge, you know, because one of the things I talk about doing is mentoring and you know, I talk a lot, you know what I mean? I'm always lecturing and I'm always advising and I'm always, you know, telling somebody what they're supposed to do. When I realized that wasn't, well, I don't do it myself. It's a lot easier to tell somebody else. So anyway, in that process, I think one of your many questions or my homework question was if I had everything I needed, what do I do to present it to the world? And I was like, oh, maybe I'll do a blog. Maybe I'll do, you know, I'm answering the questions that you gave me, not realizing that answering the question that you give me puts me on the hook and you gonna make me accountable for that shit. So
Hell yeah.
um,
Ain't nothing said by accident in these assignments.
you always say that. You always say that. And I tried to be more careful, but that didn't work. But anyway, you challenged me to one of the things I said was you know, maybe I'll do Facebook Live or I'll do something like that to kind of get the word out, mentoring. I just want to have conversations. I think that um, I have grown through conversations, and you'll be surprised what the person beside you can, or the conversation, you know, your cousin, your aunt, your friend, a stranger, what you can learn from them. Um, so I felt like I feel like there's a need for candid conversations to dig into
Yes.
ourselves. You know what I mean? And it could be about anything, but as women especially, you know, we hide behind ourselves, and I don't think that we realize that. So I feel like if I'm a mess, people probably see it differently. If I show, if I'm vulnerable and show people that part of me, they'll realize that they too are a perfect mess, and that's okay. It's all about accepting, you know, your battles and all those things, and still, you know, allowing yourself to be free. Because a lot of times I think we just kind of sit in that,
Yep.
you know. So you challenged me to this homework assignment because I'm like, I don't do lives, but you know, here we are, and you know, what a blessing, because from that was the brand. Because I think you asked me about how would I label it. Like I think one of the 10 things that I would do would be write a book. You know, write
Yeah.
a book, and
I,
I've
I
always
asked
talked
you,
about that.
I
So you
asked
make
if
me
you had
accountable.
to if you had to name the next chapter of your life, what would you call it? And you said The Perfect Mess. And I said, bitch, is that your book? Like, is that about to be your book?
Right. And that just immediately hit my heart, because I think about the perfect leader, the perfect mom, because I think all these years, that's how I identified myself, as far as the mom part. So I was thinking about all these things, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm that, but we're talking about me. You know, it's hard for me to, when we talk about Donnita, you know, that makes sense. Aside from being a mom, aside from being an aunt, aside from being all these other things, this is who I am. And it just stuck with me. And I feel like
we see a comment. Please excuse the interruption. Positive Reflection says, write that book! Exclamation mark. I have y'all on here to hold her accountable. I told her I'm not playing with this. I'm not playing with her purpose path, and she better not play either. So y'all hold her accountable. Hold her to it, please.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The pressure. The pressure. One baby at a time. But I'm looking forward to, you know, whatever this brand is, to make it for it's really about me. So it's not about, it's about me first. Learning to, you know, me first, and then maybe sharing that with other people. You know, I'm not about all these looks and likes and, you know, all this other stuff. It's really just about me, I think, getting naked with myself and being okay with that. Me exposing myself, facing my challenges. There is something in telling my stories. You know what I mean? There is something in just having good old conversations, because you just never know what you may add to somebody and how they may add to you. So it just made sense. And, you know, fast forward, I ended up putting the Instagram together only because I had to to get, you know, this thing started, whatever, with you. But and then a web page. But again, it's in its very, you know, new stages, and I'm just hoping to take off with it. It, you know, I think it will, because it's so heartfelt for me. I think it will kind of organically grow on its own.
Absolutely. You said, you know, I did this because I had to. I did it because I have to. And isn't that how purpose always works? We do what we know we have to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
You didn't do it because I gave you an assignment and you thought you should. You did it because you couldn't not do it. And that's exactly how you know that this is your purpose path. And that's exactly how you know you can't afford not to do it.
Yeah.
Rashida also, speaking of stories, Rashida said she'll get a copy for real.
Okay, Rashida.
So we already have a pre-order, baby. I don't know if you need to collect a pre-order list. I don't know if you want to do chapter by chapter.
I appreciate
these are ideas. These are just thoughts and ideas. Don't worry, when we talk next week, we can really flesh this out. But stop playing with these people, because now you already teased them with the book.
You gonna mess around and have me, who's your publisher? Who's this? Who's that? Because I talk a lot of shit, right? I'm sitting here, you know, with this dream. I'm learning to dream, and I'm always like, okay, I'll answer these questions, but I you know, you're making me accountable for what I'm saying. Yes. And I think that's another thing that we talked about, is kind of being the epitome of what we say. You know what I mean? So I
talk about that. Talk that shit. Tell them what that means. Tell them what that means, to be the epitome of what you say.
To be like, I have these conversations with my niece all the time. I have these conversations with just, you know, anybody that'll listen. And it's easy for, even with my kids, to tell them, you need to get your shit together. You know, you need to do this, you need to do that. You think this is a good idea. You know, you need to follow your path. You need to, you know, be more active, whatever the case may be, preaching to everybody else and not necessarily preaching to myself. So one of the things I think when we first started talking about this, and we talked about the challenges, was just me being responsible, me following through on commitments. And I realized I did a lot of that. You know what I mean? So I said, I think I remember you saying that when we had that little Sunday session, pull your edges session on the good thick. It was that I just talk a lot. I just want to be what I say.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I want that to marry. And if it's not like people know that you're not who you say, but I know I'm not who I say. And I think I'm coming more to, you know, I'm accepting that now and trying to hold myself accountable as well, instead of hiding behind the shield, if you will.
Absolutely. But on some level, I do believe that energetically people can tell when you're not being completely congruent. I think on some level, people can tell so for example, if you say something to your child, your child is going to pay more attention to how you live than to what you just said. So If you
Yeah.
say you can do anything you dream of, you can do anything you want to do, and they know you have a goal, but you think you can't do it, they're watching you not believe in
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
that speaks so much more loudly than what you just told them. So
Mm-hmm.
our responsibility to the people we're here to serve, to people that are watching us, is to walk our talk and to model what it looks like to show up for your dreams and put yourself out there and go after it even when you're nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Because people, even if they cannot put their finger on it, they know when you're not living what you just told them to live. And if you won't take your own advice, why the hell should I?
Yeah,
Right?
that's very true.
So we want to make sure that there is that, we want to make sure there is that consistency and
Mm-hmm.
congruency and that we're matching what we say. Otherwise, we don't get to call ourselves leaders. And if we are calling ourselves leaders, we're being irresponsible. So we want to make sure that we're actually living what we say and being the embodiment. So we train people to take our words seriously.
And train ourselves to take our word seriously.
Absolutely. And build that
Yeah.
self-trust.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the
Absolutely.
process, but it's the first step is realizing it, owning up to this shit, realizing it and being okay with it. Because I think a lot of times behind the scenes, when we don't do what we say, and we know it, right? We all know our own shit. We don't do what we say, then we beat ourselves up, but we keep on going. But behind it, it takes away from us each time we chip at that. You know what I mean? We
Absolutely.
face it in a different way. But it's
Absolutely.
really freeing. It's a step by step type thing, but it's really freeing when you get into that. It becomes, I think, like anything else. If you do it enough, it becomes a habit.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I'm glad to be. I'm glad to acknowledge, when I'm saying shit that I'm not doing, and I try to check myself, catch myself in the process. And I might not catch it all the time, but it's not always perfect. I am a perfect mess. So
Yes. You better live that brand, girl. You better live it.
it just keeps coming up. I swear it just keeps coming up. It's so appropriate. But it's all of those things. You know what I mean? It's really all those things. Yeah.
Love that. I love that. Speaking of habits,
Mm-mm.
what are some of the habits you've established or routines that you've created as a result of what you've learned in Decide to Succeed? Because I know you're doing a couple things differently. So
I am. Well, one of the things I've tried to do, what I'm doing, continuing to try to do, is powering down more. You know what I mean? But in the mornings, because in the mornings I pick up my phone and just, that was my habit. But I think that taking time out and living in my own headspace, so you have you have me doing these affirmations, and at first it was a homework assignment. When we did the vision board, I literally cut them out so that I can have it in front of me to kind of take 5 minutes for myself and just ask the universe, what is it that, I should be doing, owning my shit, telling myself that I deserve whatever my desires are. And I think that's made a difference. Forget about just taking the 5 minutes before I get on social media or I just turn over, and get to work or whatever. Taking time out for myself and breathing and focusing on something that I want out of the universe today that, I'm going to claim. And it may or may not come, but it's just a good practice to kind of spend some time with yourself before you start looking into this messiness world, this mess world. You know what I mean?
right.
So that's been a good practice. And it's a practice because I can't say I do it every day. But even today, I was like with anxiety and shit before I got on here. So I was like, let me just stop and ask, because some things you don't know. And I think that's been a part of my journey too, is that I feel like I'm supposed to know everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay to ask. It's okay to use your resources. It's okay to not know. You know what I mean? So I think that, starting my day out with kind of asking God, help me with this because I'm having a challenge, and just owning the day. And I try to, in addition to that, I try to go to bed with that same note, on that same note. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And just being appreciative, which I am anyway, but I think there's valuing writing things down. My girlfriend Jane she journalizes. I can't do that. But that's a process that I'm doing, I'm trying to incorporate into because it has made a difference. It's kind of like when you ask me, when you give me those homework assignments, that's kind of like journalizing because you're asking me of
Mm-hmm.
things about myself. So that's been good. I'm also trying to hold myself accountable. you know, when I want to quit and I don't want to do it. Because before, you know, I control me. So there's a lot of times where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get up and work out. And I'm like, I don't feel like it. I'd much rather sit on the balcony and have this glass of wine. You know what I mean? So showing up and making myself accountable. You know what I mean? Instead of saying, you know, waking up tomorrow and saying, I should have, would have, could have. I knew I should have did that, you know. I did a walk with my niece today. She's like, you trying to get out of it? I was like, I am not. Not today. Maybe tomorrow. But today we're going to do this shit. Let's go walk, even for a little while. So
Yes.
it's those things that I'm more conscious of right now. And that the other thing is, I think I'm rethinking things because I think for a point I blame people for my feelings. And what I'm
Yes.
realizing is that my feelings are things that I create, which means that my feelings are things that I can adjust.
Say it again for the people in the cheap seats. Go ahead, say it again, louder. Say that last sentence one more time. Go
My
ahead.
feelings are something I can adjust. I remember you saying we were having this conversation, and I was like, we talked about it sticks in my head because I'm always like, you should do this, or have you thought about this, or you know, trying to be somebody's savior. And you were like, what makes you think you're the savior? And I'm like,
Mm.
what you mean? I'm not a savior, you know. But I need to save myself. You know, I need to save myself first. So I need to use that energy on digging into me instead of, and then I would be offended because my girlfriends, you know, I tend to be deep, you know. I tend to be deeper, like when I'm drinking and things like that. So sometimes it's not for everybody, and I have to realize that, right? Now, nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to. Sometimes my kids don't want to hear me having this, you know, heart to heart. And my son's over here, and I heard his voice. But I just kind of revamped those conversations and had them, and I'm having them with myself, realizing
Yes.
I can't control anybody else. I can only control myself. I can't
Yes.
blame people for how I feel. You know what I mean? I can't blame people for them not satisfying my want because it's my want, right? And that's hard because I think God, that's such a big piece of it. It's my want, my problem. If somebody else doesn't understand that, that's still my problem. It's not somebody
Mm.
else's responsibility to feed me. I got to start feeding myself.
Absolutely. That can be very intimidating for people that want to play victim or that want to be able to like sit back. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's actually incredibly empowering to know how much more control you have, to remember that you have a say in how your life goes, and to remember that you get to decide how you're going to feel and how you're going to approach things. So I love that.
Yeah, and I like you reminding me of that. You always tell me that. I mean, you always said one of the things. I mean, and it's funny because Adama, these are things I know. These are things I
Of course.
speak on. But again, the message comes, you know, in different ways. But I
Hmm.
mean, I just love that. You know, I love that. I love that. I'm looking forward to taking more responsibility of Donnita. You know,
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to, and that's what I'm filling my life with. That's what I'm filling my time with. And accepting that I'm a fuck up along the way, whatever that means. You know what I mean? And it's okay because a fuck
Hmm.
up is not necessarily failure, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, you know. And
There we go.
I'm learning that at a time when I didn't really think that was an issue,
Mm.
you know. So that's it's just I don't know. That's the beauty of it. Doing self checks, doing more self check, checking in with yourself, owning your shit, your mess, just getting there and being okay with it. I'm
Mm.
different. It's okay. They don't hear me. It's okay. They don't see me, but I see me.
Mm. Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. I mean, that's what matters. You see
Yeah.
you, and it's
Yeah.
okay. And there's no mistake so big that you can't recover from it. So you give yourself permission to try.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not other people's job to get it or to like it. It's their job to move back so you can do it the way you need to do it. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So love that. Love that. What would you say have been some of your biggest takeaways from Decide to Succeed? And what is the biggest change you have noticed in your life as a result?
A lot of takeaways. Some that I've mentioned before, but owning my shit, knowing that it doesn't have to be perfect, understanding that I'm complicating and learning how to uncomplicate my thoughts. I
Mm.
like when we have our sessions and I may say something and you're just like, well, can I offer you another way of saying that? You know what I mean? If I say, well, I don't think this, you'll be like, well, what about you do think this and this is okay? Trusting myself. Trusting myself with me.
Mm.
Because I didn't realize I didn't do that. And that's been huge, you know. Um, I don't. It's been a lot.
Oh, my best friend said that Adama reframe. Hey, best friend.
Hey, best friend.
Yeah, I love
Um,
a reframe. I know y'all are sick as hell of them, but I'm always gonna offer them.
that's okay. Those are the seeds that need to be planted, you know, and need to be repeated internally. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
that's what you've offered. It's sometimes it hurts, but it's a good hurt.
Mm.
Operating on yourself instead of trying to operate on other people.
Yes. And what do you think is possible now that you have the gift of the reframe and now that you know how to choose different thoughts and different perspectives? What's possible now?
I think anything
Mm.
is possible. I mean, I just did this whole, putting together this. I mean, you challenged me. I mean, it wasn't even, the homework was to kind of get on live and expose myself, to get over my fears and all the other stuff. But there's been things birthed from that. And now even I'm having the conversations at work differently. You know what I mean? I'm negotiating me better. I'm
Yes.
looking forward to taking that with me, whether it be a new relationship with my next boo, whether it
Come
be
on,
with
next
my
boo. We
kids.
speaking it out. Come on, next boo.
My son over here ain't feeling that. But whether it be my kids, whether it be my friendship, my relationships, um, I'm looking forward to that. You know, I'm I'm looking forward to that.
I love that. I love that so much. I may have asked this already, but I want to hear more about this. I know that a lot of personal development and Decide to Succeed in particular is around unlearning, and choosing a new narrative for your life. So I was wondering if you could share with the people what is the biggest unlearning that you experienced in our time together, and what is the new narrative that you are choosing to replace it with for this next chapter?
Mm. That's one of them questions, Adama.
You know I don't do surface, girl.
I know. Unlearning. What have I unlearned? I've learned to change the narrative. So there's a lot of things I've said that like when I say I'm complicated. Well, what if this is just, who you are? It's not necessarily being complicated, it's you demanding who you are. Um, you creating boundaries. You know what I mean? I talk about that a lot now. It's always in my head and being okay with that. Being okay with people don't understand me. You know what I mean? Being
Yes.
okay with being okay with not knowing. So I think there's so much to that. I mean, I think there's a lot that we've talked about. I can't think of a specific example that, but I'm constantly rewriting the narrative. I'm constantly just thinking about. I know one of the things that we talked. It was so simple, but I know even at work, I'm always like when I'm explaining something to somebody, I'm always like, "You understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Of course it makes sense.
Mm,
Why am I second judging myself if that makes sense? You know what I mean? But the problem is, it didn't make sense to myself. So it didn't. It starts with me. So it's all about just reframing my what I say, because I didn't realize how important that was. It's all those things. It's my thoughts when I thought that my friends were the reason why I felt a certain way.
mm,
With this guy, that I dated, he did this to me, but I let him do that to me. You know what I mean? It's
mm.
reframing all those things and making somebody else responsible for my shit, because it's not their responsibility.
Mhm. Love. I love that. And I do want to add very quickly a little asterisk. I am very big on personal power and personal responsibility and agency, but I am not in the habit of blaming people for their victimization. I'm not interested in making you wrong for abuse or suffering or trauma that you may have experienced. But I do want to make sure that we take back our power and remember, no matter what we've practiced thinking, no matter what we've experienced in the past, we get to decide to do things differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate you staying open, and I appreciate you never assuming that I was telling you you were wrong for feeling hurt. The issue, that's not the issue. It was always just remembering I can feel hurt, move through this hurt, and choose not to ever let it happen again because of how I show up and because of the decisions I make.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely. Absolutely. And I appreciate you kind of doing that. I never felt that you were doing that. I mean, you always offered me just a different view of myself. You know, when I said something, you said, can I offer you a different way of seeing that? Or different way of restating that, you know, changing the narrative. And I've never felt like you were, you know, doing anything other than that. Just offer me a different view of myself because I didn't see it.
Mm.
And that was the part that was, you know, that's the lights that went, that's the light that went off. You know, it's just kind of really giving me, just kind of turning the mirror around and saying, look at yourself. And I thought I was. That's the thing about it. I thought I was.
Mm-hmm.
But it's different when, you know, somebody else checks you. You know, that's that good shit. And that's the shit I feel like. That's the stuff I feed off of, because a lot of people won't offer that. People take it,
Mm.
you know, they get offended and things like that. But I think that's the beauty of growth and accepting just your weakness.
Yes.
And I mean, you've said so many times you have the power. What if, you know, you deserve this? You know, I feel like, you know, sometimes, you know, I worked hard for it. I deserve it. But there's something about just kind of standing in it regardless. You know what I mean? And standing in and just knowing that, you know, because
Yes.
we get so used to just, you know, doing our day-to-day things with being moms, mothers, you know, teaching, you know, going to school, just doing all this stuff becomes our regular habit. But really realizing that this is coming to you just because you deserve it.
Yes.
Just because you deserve it. It can be just that simple. You know, and I don't know, reversing the mindset of being a victim and making excuses for yourself. I mean, all that
Mm.
feeds into the same thing.
Love, 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 love so much. So in yesterday's session, okay, so we've been working together for a couple months now. And so I've known for a while that obviously, like, you're a brilliant woman. I only attract brilliant women. I only attract aspiring change makers and movement builders and all that. So I knew that you were about some shit, right? But hearing yesterday when you broke down the story, I feel like people appreciate what you've created because it looks good on paper, right? But I think if people knew
Mm-hmm.
the real nitty gritty story, their respect would have to go through the roof. Like, I just kept my jaw dropped multiple times in yesterday's conversation. Like, what? What? So you came from what? And you made a decision. It's like you've been deciding to succeed over and over and over again at a number of different chapters in your life. So of course you would enroll in my program because you're used to having to decide to succeed in spite of what you've seen, and in spite of what you've endured, in spite of what you've been through
Mm-hmm.
and all that you've suffered. But I feel
Mm-hmm.
like just to give people perspective of like what it looks like when you are willing to decide to succeed, I want them to see like the whole trajectory. Can you give just a teaser? And if people want more, they're going to have to follow you on the journey. But can you give a little teaser of what you've pulled yourself out of that makes this transformation so much more beautiful?
Oh, Jesus. Um, so just a little bit about my background is that I grew up, I guess, in what they kind of consider a trap house these days. You know, pregnant at 14, pregnant at 15. Um, and I had my firstborn at 14. I remember it to the day. And my secondborn at 15. And I made the decision at 15 years old to give my secondborn up for adoption. Um, and of course, the beauty of it is we reconnected, you know, 20 something years later. But just running fast in my life, like I just remember when I was younger thinking that I will never come back to the place I came from. So a lot of my feeding myself and moving is because I had to. Not because I
Mm-hmm.
thought about it, but because I had to. Because my son wasn't going to be where I was.
Mm. You are getting so much love right now. You are getting a lot of heart showers. I don't know if you can see, but I can. You're getting so much love right now because your story is so needed.
So I made the decision to give my son up for adoption, and we reconnected, which is the beauty of it. That's the short and sweet. But of course, that comes with challenges because at this point, there's a couple challenges that come with that. Because one is I've always been focused on my kids. That's all I know how to do. So when you talk about dreaming, I didn't dream. I just said, you know what I mean? Um, I just lived. I just moved. I had to succeed,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what I wanted for me. It was about what I wanted for my son. And then my second son, of course, it was always in the back of my mind because I knew we'd meet again. I didn't know
Mm.
when, but I knew we had to.
Mm.
So I always had to position myself or envision myself in a position where I can always, when I go find him, when I look for him, that he would be in a good place, that I would be in a good place, that
Come
we
on,
would be in a good
manifestation.
place.
You can't tell us manifestation is not real when you visualize that you would meet your child again, and you did, and you've created such a beautiful relationship with him. I'm not going to interrupt anymore. Go ahead, keep telling the story. I'm sorry.
But that always had to happen. The interesting part about it is nobody knew, of course. Nobody knew until after I reunited with him at 22, 23 years old. I did try to start the process at 18, but I shut it down because I guess I wasn't ready. So once we reconnected, that took my life into a whole different spin. Um, Connecting my boys, trying to make sure that they, you know, they knew how to be brothers, and so I go from raising the son from 14 to, and once he's good, he's off to college and he's doing his thing, and then I which was perfect because God works in mysterious ways. But then I was in a position mentally and physically where I can you know go look for my son because I wanted to make sure that he knew that I was looking for him. I didn't want him have to look for me. I always knew that I would do that. So I feel like now, fast forward, that's just a little tidbit, but fast forward, I feel like now they're good. They're grown ass men living in their own, and I'm proud of them. They're living through their truths and, being the men that they're supposed to be, which makes it so hard because at this stage in my life, I'm still trying to figure out who I am, what I want. So that's why
You're
I knew when
deciding. You don't have to figure out shit. You're deciding and
I'm
creating as you
deciding,
go.
excuse me. Um, So that's what makes this even more powerful because I did not realize that I didn't know how to answer the questions about myself that you were asking. If you ask me how to be a mom and what I did with my son and how to do this, I'm always preaching on that. I know I got this shit. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know how to be Donnita and
Mm.
natural, organically. You know what I mean? How to create something, how to dream something, create it, and get it for myself without anybody else in mind.
Yes.
About a year and a half ago, I downsized. I think I sold my house. I think I told you that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt like I needed that. You know what I mean? But I thought that was just enough. You know
Mm.
what I mean? I call myself divorcing my kids. I shut down. I downsized. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You divorce your kids, but you never really can divorce your kids. But even in my new space, there was something missing. And the part that was missing was it's knowing who I am and what I want, just for me, aside from everybody else. You know what
Yes.
I
Oh,
mean?
we have a
Just
beautiful
learning
comment that I
who
want to
I
make sure
am.
gets.
How?
We have a beautiful comment. It's Red's World Babe says, while you were going through your own mess, you stayed a leader to many.
I
Look at
did.
that. Here you were thinking you had
That's
to be
Red.
perfect to
That's
do
my niece.
leadership well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that your niece?
Yeah, that's my niece.
Hey, niece. Thank you for pushing your auntie because Yeah.
We push each other, but yeah, she's a hot mess too. But the thing about it is, um, in this journey of figuring out who I am aside from everybody else, identifying, like having my own identity. That's what it is, Adam. It's learning who I am individually, and that is the hard part, but it's also the refreshing part.
Yes.
Um, and owning it, like I feel comfort in that. You know what I mean? It's long overdue, and I feel comfort in it. I'm always going to be a mom. That part is just it, but that doesn't have. I don't have to wear that badge. That's not the
Yes.
only badge I have. You know. Um, so there's more to this, you know, which is the Donnita 3.0 part. I mean, it's my God, it's so much more to this.
Mm.
You know, why I look forward to my sons doing their thing. You know, I got to remember that they have the information, you know, to go out in the world and challenge themselves, and they know what to do. Do I know what to do?
Mm.
You know, do I know what to do with myself without them being my excuse to not get
Mm.
inside?
Mm. And now look at you. Look at all you get to create. I just want to reiterate, y'all, the number of like versions of herself that she has been. 14-year-old mom, 15-year-old mom, placing her child for adoption at 15, becoming an accountant, becoming a finance professional, slaying it in the corporate world, then deciding digital entrepreneurship would be cool. Because she ain't even stunned on y'all. She didn't tell y'all she's getting her master's in digital entrepreneurship, but I'm a stunt for her. That's fine. So getting her master's in digital entrepreneurship, and then
Absolutely.
deciding, you know what? It would be really cool if I built a whole brand. And now y'all get
Mm-hmm.
to join her in this journey, in this next chapter. She's actually deciding to monetize her purpose, to grow her brand, to show up as a version of her that she has not even created yet, but that she gets to enjoy. And y'all get to join her on the journey. Like, you heard it here first, y'all. You heard it here
How about
first.
that? How about that? I'm so excited about that. I don't know what it's going to be. It's right now, it's a perfect mess in my head. I have ideas. The good thing is I have a support system that is just awesome. You know, all my girlfriends just support me, and I appreciate that. My family, you know, because you can't do it alone, you know. So I mean, there's no telling what Donnita 3.0 is capable of, and what this brand is capable of. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm no longer afraid, and that's the part
Hey!
that becomes so interesting because I didn't think I was afraid. I didn't know I was hiding behind myself. You know, I didn't realize I guess I was hiding behind my perfection or my thought of perfection or trying to be perfect. And I think I'm embracing the fact that it doesn't have to be so complicated and it doesn't have to be so perfect.
And knowing now, one more time for the people, I know we got like 7 minutes. Knowing now that you have permission to create whatever you want and that it doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful, what are you choosing to create first with the perfect mess?
Um,
More accountability, more accountability, more
I know
accountability.
I all the time with this shit. But you know what? I think that when we talked yesterday, I used the word conduit. I think that's what I want. That's what I am. So I want to use that for the people and for myself because it's me first, right? Because I'm always trying to help people. My girlfriend was telling me last night, I want to make sure that you take care of you and not,
Mm,
taking care of everybody else. I want to make sure you get
yes.
this. So I think that I want it to be something that's freeing, someplace that's a space that's safe to just have conversations about whatever, of substance, of purpose, purposeful conversations, I guess. Um, or information, sharing of information. I mean, I think that one thing I realized when I was growing up, as as quiet as I was in my mess, I was always watching people. I was always listening to what people said.
Mm,
So I think that we need more examples of messes like me, successful messes like me, for the people out there that may not see that. So
yes.
I really want to offer people that space. I'm hoping to have maybe more conversations, maybe more genuine conversations. My story and my family stories is just a small part of it. But I was
Yes.
thinking the other day, this brand can become many things. I got a family full of people with so many skill sets. I got a cousin that's a writer. I have a cousin that deals with stocks and bonds. I mean, there's so much to offer, people that want to listen. It's kind of
Yes.
like the other day when you was like, you need to promote this. And I'm like, and I'm like, I don't do promoting, but it's not about that. I realize that it's about just kind of giving something to the people that want it,
Yes.
and that's the difference with, like when I'm always talking and lecturing people and stuff like that. I think that this offers me an opportunity to kind of get my feelings and emotions out there, sort of, kind of, and also to the people that want to receive it. I think it's going to be a safe space, but it could end up being anything. I was talking to my son yesterday. It could be, it could be anything, because
Yes.
we are all part of a perfect mess, and there's so
Yes.
many pieces to it. So I'm looking forward to figuring out what that is. I welcome any, information or advice that people have to give. But again, this is very new, but I know I have something to offer, and I know people have something to offer me, and I just want to share that. I think we need
Beautiful.
to have these conversations, and we need content.
People definitely
really
want to receive it.
Yeah.
People definitely want to receive it. So here's my question. How can people keep up with you offline after they've logged off of this live?
I have this new Instagram, which is Miss Nita, The Perfect Mess. And I also have on there Instagram is a link to The Perfect Mess. So I think both sites have my email address. If, people have ideas or just want to follow up on a conversation. Whatever it is. I mean, that's what it is right now. Everything, again, is a week old, but that's okay. I'm working on it. We're work in progress, and,
Work in progress. Masterpiece in progress.
Yeah. If it's not, 100% right now, it will be. So, check me out. Check it
Rashida
out.
said she's following you now. Rashida's another one of my Dream Leap Live VIPs. She's following you now.
Hey, Rashida. Oh, thank you. I'm still learning this shit too. So I'm just still trying to figure out how to accept people and, whatever it is that I need to do with Instagram. Trying to
come on, niece. You better go ahead and I don't know how to pin, Lord, but she put your handle in there. Miss Nita, The Perfect Mess. That's it. Now, people, Tamara says, yes, what an inspiration. Love that. Y'all.
Thank you.
It's going to be a beautiful way to hold her accountable and to show her that she's always divinely guided and supported. Go on ahead and make sure you are following her at Miss Nita _ The Perfect Mess. Make sure you also go to theperfectmess.org. And if you want more of what she had and you want to learn how to follow this purpose path with intentionality, then go ahead and send me a DM, or you can go to dreamleaplive.com to start your own purpose journey. Shanice, hey, boo. Wonderful magic member. That's Shanice. She is another one of my Dream Leap Live VIPs. She knows all about dragging and pushing and forcing people to remember that their purpose is on purpose and they need to step onto that path. I want to thank everybody for being here and for supporting us in this moment. Miss Donnita, I thank you for trusting me with this process and for showing up. You did great. You did beautifully.
Thank you. And Adama, thank you. Thank you for introducing me to myself.
Bitch, yes.
Thank you. I mean, you just, in a matter of just weeks, you just really introduced me to who I am, and allowed me to be, and told me I can be okay in that, and that was big. And I thank you. That goes a long way. And thank you to everybody that came on and supported this thing. And thank God. It's behind me now.
Come on, thank God. Come on. This has been so beautiful. Instagram is about to be a hater and cut us off, but thank y'all for doing this. Please share this with somebody who needs it. I look forward to hearing so much more about The Perfect Mess. And don't worry, because we're going to talk next Monday. So
absolutely. We're connected now. We go together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have a beautiful week on purpose, y'all. See you next week.
To be continued.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.